Welcome to Season 1, Episode 18 of PuckHeads Insider Report. If you have any questions on your favorite team, send them off to us, puckheadsinsider@gmail.com, our Facebook page, PuckHeads Insider Report. We'll be happy to get your questions on our show. Today's show is brought to you by the Florida Grow House. Have you ever thought of your own greenhouse? Here's your chance to get one. Have your own healthy, organic, fresh, delicious fruits and vegetables. It's fun, relaxing, and a money-saving food in your own backyard. Just go to floridagrowhouse.com or call 772-249-2095. Mention you heard this ad on Puckhead's Insider Report. Get yourself a $750 discount. My name is Ed Combs. I'm here in South Florida. My co-host, Peter South, is in Windsor, Ontario. We are touching on the Minnesota Wild and their rookie phenom, Kirill Kapirzov, who seems to score highlight reel goals almost at will on a nightly basis. We're also going to touch on the New York Rangers defenseman, Tony DeAngelo, or should we say former New York Rangers defenseman, Tony DeAngelo. What is happening with there being a trade, or if he's going to be picked up by Seattle in an expansion draft? Is he going to make it that far? So, Peter, what do you say we get things going? How are things in the Great White North, my friend?
Actually, they're quite warm, Ed. It was about 55 degrees here today in Windsor, and everybody's in good spirits, except you can't tell because everybody's got a mask on, but everybody looked to be in good spirits.
How are things with the mask wearing up there? Is anything changing? Are they getting ready? The Ontario Hockey League going to play? Are they going to allow people outside the NHL to do a sport?
Let's touch on that first, Ed. I was actually talking to a couple of the OHL players today, and there's the players started circulating a petition amongst all the other players. And so far, they get about 800 signatures on this petition that they're sending to the government because they're frustrated. They want to play hockey. They're part of the Canadian Hockey League, the OHL is, and they're the only league not playing. The Western Hockey League is starting to get it going. The Quebec Hockey League has been going. Down south, the United States Hockey League has been going all year, and you have a lot of kids here who are very frustrated. They're draft-eligible kids in their last year of eligibility to play junior. It's just a lot of frustration going on, and mainly with the Ontario government, and especially the sports minister, Lisa MacLeod, who, put it honestly, Ed, she's got her head up her ass.
We've talked about this before. We touched on this before, that she's kind of on a power trip, not letting these kids play, yet the NHL can play, all other parts of Canada and their leagues are playing. The entire U.S. is playing, the ECHL, the AHL. You've got all these other leagues playing, and she's not letting them play. Is it she's on a power trip? What is her problem? And can anybody, is this going to do anything, this petition?
I think it's what's bringing public awareness to it even more so. And I think, honestly, I just don't think she gets the importance to these kids. I mean, we're talking livelihoods for a lot of these kids to be drafted. And you could be talking in the area of millions of dollars that could be affected. I mean, these kids have been off the ice and funny as it is, the one kid I talked to today from the London Knights, they played their last game exactly 1 year ago tonight as we do this recording. And these kids are losing out on development, they're losing out on experience, and they're losing out on being seen and getting a high spot in the draft.
Well, how is that going to affect the draft? Because we've heard different conversations go back and forth regarding a draft, and then maybe not a draft, and then you have an 18 draft and a 19 draft of kids that are 18 and 19 years old. And how is this going to play out? If these kids can't play and teams can't look at them, do they have to base it on what they saw the year before?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't come out with a plan for the drafting, in concrete yet, because they just don't know what the OHL is. And I mean, the OHL is a major feeder to the NHL. To not have these kids playing, to be seen and ranked, it's very tough on the NHL teams in that perspective too. First off, a lot of these kids weren't looked at that seriously because they're a year away from being selected. I mean, they're looked at, but again, and that maturity and development in that 1 year sometimes is remarkably high. Or you get a lot of players who look like, at 16-year-olds, they're going to be phenomenal. And they peak. They hit that spot. If scouts don't see them developing, they don't know what's going on. So it's a mess. And until these kids get on the ice, it's going to be very hard. And even when the kids do get on the ice, like I said, there's been kids who haven't played a competitive game in a year now. So what are they going to show, even in a small sampling of games, like 25 game schedule or something like that?
Well, it's going to affect them big time. At 16, at 17, at 18, if these kids can't be seen and scouts don't know how to adjust with what they're seeing, either are they peaking or maybe the last time they saw them, I might look at him. Let's see what he does next year and see if he makes a step up. Now he can't see that. He doesn't know if that kid made a step up. So that's going to screw up his chances of being drafted. Hypothetically, this petition goes through and somebody does some arm twisting and finally gets this woman to pull her head out of her behind, as you so eloquently put it, and let these kids play. Is it going to help? Because the draft isn't that far away.
Well, I think what they're going to do, regardless, I think they're going to change the date on the draft. It is scheduled, I think, for July 22nd or something like that. But I think it is going to be rescheduled to go later, probably later in the summer, especially if all goes the way it should with shots and all that kind of stuff. I mean, hopefully we're looking at hockey getting back at its traditional times of starting in the late summer, early fall, and going then. So I could see the draft happening right before then.
Usually training camp kicks off in August. You got preseason games in September, and the season kicks off in October. You also have the draft, and then you have free agent signings, players that have not been re-signed or are UFAs. After the draft, these players now can go sign wherever they want. How is it going to affect all that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the draft is, other than maybe one or two kids, not many are going to jump right into the NHL right away anyway. So it's just long-term planning. But, for the NHL, you're a little off. They'll do camp in September and then kick off the games in October. So that'll, they're going to rest in August for sure. And especially this year with the cup going as late as it will. But
in a normal season, doesn't training camp start the very end of August? Everybody gets rolling. They got preseason games in September. No, it's always been in September.
Yeah, it usually starts after Labor Day weekend.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I was off a bit there. Let's touch on the New York Rangers. Still sitting around 500 hockey. Injury bug is mounting up on defense. They're content letting Tony DeAngelo sit at home and collect a paycheck. The man led all defensive players in scoring, or was fourth in defensive players scoring last season. And as a few weeks ago, they put their foot in the mouth, stating he'll never wear a Rangers jersey again. The injuries are mounting up, and now they're in a position of, oops. What have you heard? Anything on a trade front? Do you see them being content with letting him sit there till the expansion draft, or is there a trade that could happen before that, and so they don't just have to give him up if Seattle wants him?
I think what's going to happen is, first off, he's not sitting at home. Just so people are clear, he is actually with the Rangers. He's on their taxi squad. He is there, yes. And
I want to clarify that, absolutely, because the way they had put it was he was sent home and will never put on his jersey again. Now he's on the taxi squad.
Oh, yeah. He's been on the taxi squad since he cleared waivers. Yeah. So like I said, Jeff Gorton, the GM, I really think he put his foot in his mouth. And I know as a, when you're a GM and you hear another GM say that about one of his players, it's like, okay, he's going to have to pretty well give this kid away. And I think what's going to happen is he's going to get moved, but I think it'll be closer to the trade deadline, which is, I think it's around mid-April. Once teams sort out to get around that 3-quarter mark through the season, and they'll see what it is. But I think, the Rangers are going to probably want to get a combination of draft picks and perhaps a player maybe with a year term left or something like that they can expose to in the Seattle draft so that they don't have to give up on any of their younger guys themselves. And, they don't have that affiliation with that player. But I do believe the Rangers, I mean, this kid's making some decent money for a young guy, and the Rangers are probably going to have to eat some of his contract over the next couple of years because he's signed for this year and next year. Next year, he signed for $4.8 million. So I could see the Rangers having to eat some of that.
They've already come out and stated they're. I mean, unless something's changed, but the last that was said, that was all that they were going to eat some of their contract. They were going to do whatever it took, but they came out flat out said they will not eat any of his contract. That if you want him, it's him and his salary. Did I read something wrong or no?
No. I mean, like I said, Jeff Gorton already put his foot in his mouth on this one anyway. So, I mean, it's take a second bite of the sandwich. You might as well have. So
you're going to eat the shit sandwich. You might as well eat it all, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So he seemed to acquire a taste for it.
Yeah. Let's jump into the Minnesota Wild as they are celebrating their 20th season in the NHL as the Wild. And it seems good things come to those who wait, Peter. And when it comes to this kid, with hands that say he's here to stay, some of the moves this kid can make are starting to make the NHL all-star defenseman look silly. Now, I'm not saying he is. I'm not putting undue pressure on this kid. Some of his moves remind me of a young Pavel Datsyuk. I'm not saying he has his hands. I'm not saying he will ever have those moves or that kind of stuff in his toolbox, because I don't. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on this kid. Pavel's a two-time Stanley Cup champ. He's done everything there is to do. With Minnesota sitting at 13-8-1 as of the recording of this show, and he's got a team leading 19 points with 6 goals. Is this kid for real? I mean, he's scoring goals on his stomach. He's scoring goals from every direction, almost every game. He's making these defensemen look silly. And I'm exaggerating when I say he's scoring every game. He's got 6 goals on the season, but at 19 points, he's leading the team as a rookie in points.
Well, I guess one thing about Kapirzov, he's definitely a real player. There's no question about that. And he can do some magical things offensively. He's got great vision, soft hands, and he definitely has a nose for the net. But I guess one of the things that really bodes well for the Wild, they've been waiting for Kapirzov for a few years. I mean, he was a 5th-round pick in 2015, but he's stayed in Russia, and he's played 6 full seasons in the KHL before coming to the NHL. And for those who don't know, the KHL is as close to the NHL as far as talent as you can get. And he put up some impressive numbers there, including 62 points last season in 57 games for CSKA Moscow, which is one of the top teams in that league. I've only seen him play a couple times on TV, one being last week when he played Vegas, but he definitely is somebody now that the season's hitting that halfway mark and that the West Division have all seen him. They're starting to pay a little more attention to him for sure.
And I'm trying to decide in my own head if it's a good thing or a bad thing that this is his rookie season and he only sees teams in his own division. Nobody else has a chance to really see him except maybe on tape or on TV to prepare for him for next season. Does that help him? Does that hurt him?
Well, that'll help him, but I also think the other teams are going to be ready. I mean, the advance word will get out there. There's no doubt that the coach who's a friend, coach of T-Max who hasn't played him will call his buddy up in LA or Colorado or St. Louis and say, all right, give me the lowdown on this kid and all that kind of stuff. Coaches tend to talk to one another, try to help each other out. That'll definitely be the case with this too.
What is it you see the Wild is missing to make a push for the playoffs? I mean, they've got a few prospects in the wings waiting for a shot in the show. Marco Rossi, taken 9th overall in the 2020 draft, led all OHL scoring in the 1920 season with 120 points in 56 games. He does have an elite upside as a goal scorer, but at standing only 5'9", is he going to be the real deal? Will size be an issue, or is it a non-starter with that kind of talent?
He is a talented kid. I saw him play in the OHL quite a bit. Unfortunately, he's not with the team. He actually went back to Europe and kind of waiting out the COVID battle back home in Europe, and I'm sure he's playing in Austria. But he is definitely a player. He was in the World Juniors playing for Austria, and just quite a talent. Also a kid with great vision. He's going to do very well in the league when he gets there. But going back to your question, you asked what the Wild are missing. And as funny as it sounds, to me, it's clock management. They would love to be able to control the clock. They'd love to see their young players, and they've got a mitt full of them, develop quicker, get to the point where they're ready to challenge. But they also have a number of veteran star players who they wish they could stop aging so that this could all mesh together. The way it's looking, I think they might end up kind of missing out on that right now, because I think by the time these young guys hit their stride, the older guys, the Sutters, the Parisi, by the way, Parisi was a healthy scratch for only the second time in his career last week. Wow. And that says something.
Marco Rossi is just one prospect too. I mean, there's other guys besides what you said about these guys that are the aging guys like the Sutters and the Parisis. Who else do they got that are big veterans on that team that are getting old quick?
Well, you've got, like I said, Parisi's 36 and Zuccarella's 33, Nick Bonino's 32, just on the forwards. And you got, like I said, Ryan Sutter's 36. You have a couple of older defensemen. Jared Spurgeon just signed a long-term deal, and he's 31 years old already, the new captain of the Wild. And, of course, goaltending. We're going to touch on that in a bit. But with Kaapo Kähkönen, between the pipes there, he still has to show he can do the job. They have Cam Talbot as a veteran presence, but, goaltending's another issue that they have to look at. There's a lot of promise for the Wild. Like they look really good on paper with the young players they have. They're playing well so far this year. I think they're going to end up catching that fourth playoff spot in that division. Are they at the Vegas, Colorado, St. Louis level yet? Absolutely not. But I think of the rest of the teams in that division, they are probably the best team, and I think we'll end up with that fourth spot.
Well, the prospects is what I'm focused on at the moment. Besides the kid that was all them years in the KHL, and the guys that you got waiting in the wings, besides Mark Rossi, you also have waiting in the wings Merit Kuznutinov, who was essentially acquired in a trade that sent forward Luke Kunin and a fourth-round selection to the Nashville Predators for Nick Bonino and picks in the second and third round, which were used to select the centerman. He is an up-and-comer. He is going to be on this team. Merritt is an elite two-way center with a powerful stride, which brings him to a very good top speed. He's good at taking face-offs. He's got a lot of tools. He's a very skilled two-way centerman, but he's probably going to be another 2 to 3 seasons away from the NHL. Callan Addison, who seems to be their top defensive prospect and who is a gifted offensive defender who was originally drafted by the Penguins in the 2018 draft at pick number 53. And he came over in a trade to Minnesota that sent Jason Zucker to Pittsburgh in exchange for Galchenyuk and Addison, and now a 2021 first-round pick. Addison tied for sixth in the WHL for points as a defender during the 1920 season. 9 points in 7 games for Team Canada in the World Juniors. He's a very strong D core for the Minnesota Wild. And if he continues to develop as a top defender, he's a little closer to the NHL in maybe 1 or 2 seasons. Goaltending, you brought that up. We've got all kinds of positives for Minnesota, but it's nothing that's going to be able to step into their team right away.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we, like you said about goaltending, we talked about Kaapo Kähkönen briefly. He's in his first year with the team, and he's shown enough promise that they were willing to let Devan Dubnyk go, who's been the backbone of that team for the past number of years. And, Cam Talbot's coming in. He's on the downward slope of his career. But another goaltending prospect they have is at the University of Massachusetts, goaltender Philip Lindbergh. And he's...
Didn't we talk about him before? Isn't he supposed to be setting the world on fire over there?
Oh, he's again, for the second time, the Hockey East goaltender of the month. I mean, he's in the month of February, he has a .952 save percentage. Jeez. I mean, he's definitely being groomed for the future. So, like I said, when we started talking about this, it's clock management for the Wild. They want to get these young guys developed and contributing, but you also want to do it in a constructive way where you don't kill their confidence and throw them in the fire too early.
No, let's make it clear, we're not talking about clock management for the game here. We're talking
no, definitely not. No, we're talking about human clock management. Yeah, it's like yours has been ticking away, Ed. The human time, yeah,
exactly.
But
no, they want to get some of these kids in there to help the older veterans, groom them, teach them what it's like to be an NHL player on the ice, off the ice, in the room, away from the rink. How to do interviews. There's certain things that you got to learn to be in this game, and it's not just passing the puck or shooting the puck. There's a lot more.
No. Well, I'll tell you, one kid I remember watching 3 years ago when he came into the league out of college is Jordan Greenway. He's a big, strong winger and good skater, and he's coming into his own this year. He's starting to put the puck in the net. He's the second leading scorer on the team, and he's benefiting from the veteran status. We didn't even talk about Marcus Foligno, another strong veteran leader on that team. They have the pieces. It's just being able to put them all together in a timely fashion.
All right, Peter, before we go too much further, I want to jump into our I Bet You Didn't Know. Now, today's I Bet You Didn't Know is for a true Minnesota Wild fan. Today's I Bet You Didn't Know who scored the Minnesota Wild's first ever regular season goal. Is it A, Marian Gaborik, B, Darby Hendrickson, C, Scott Pellerin, or D, Wes Walz? Who scored the Minnesota Wild's first ever regular season goal? Marian Gaborik, Darby Hendrickson, Scott Pellerin, or Wes Walz? Stick around. We have the answer for you coming up in just a few minutes. Discussing what they're doing, Peter, and clock management and trying to get these young players to develop quicker and slow down the aging of their veterans so that they can kind of get them all together for a few seasons at a time. Do you see the Wild being buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? If they're buyers, do you see them making any big moves to take a shot or a push in the playoffs? And if not, are they going to hold pat, keep prospects humming along, and getting more picks for the future?
I think actually they're going to be neither. I think they're just going to kind of be observers, and they're going to watch. Pat. Yeah, I think they'll stand pat. They've got a lot, unless something really good and juicy passes by their door, and maybe that D'Angelo kid. I mean, he could be a great fit on that team. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's hard to say, but I really think they're going to be more observers, watch what happens. And, you got to make sure it's you keep up with the Joneses when you get back to the regular divisions. You want to make sure you're still, you're strong in your own division and then your own conference. And that's important as well. But you also got to keep the pipeline going. You don't want to go for a veteran superstar for a year or two, and then it ends up costing you half of your youth. So you got to be careful.
You don't see them pushing any of these kids too quick to come up. I mean, they show this monster potential. You got the one kid who is scoring over 2 points a game in the OHL over a 56-game season. And are they going to be like, okay, this kid can put it in the net. Let's get him up here. Do you see them pushing a defenseman from a year or two out to making him try to be available now? With a defenseman taking longer to develop, they don't really want to push him up too quick if he's a season or two away, right?
Exactly. They want to take their time. And Bill Guerin has become a really, really good general manager. He has a plan, on developing guys, bringing them in, when to bring them up. He's going to stick to it. I mean, he saw how it was done in Pittsburgh. It worked well with them. Never did a player come up too early for the Penguins. They got some seasoning in the AHL and, learned how to play Penguin-style hockey. And I think that's exactly what he's going to want to do. And especially Billy Guerin had his own background with the Bruins. So it's, he's seen the proper way to create a winning team. And
he's got his finger on the pulse of the team. He knows.
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
Listening to all his scouts. He's listening to the people at the other levels.
Yeah, he's got a blueprint, and I think come hell or high water, he's going to execute that blueprint. So
good for him. Before we go much further, let's jump into today's I Bet You Didn't Know. Let's get you the answer to that question. Peter, the Minnesota Wild's first ever goal was scored by A. Marian Gaborik, B. Darby Hendrickson, C. Scott Pellerin, or D. Wes Walz. Peter, who is the answer?
Well, like I say, a lot of these names aren't big household names. I don't know if many will ever hit the NHL Hockey Hall of Fame, but unless they buy a ticket. But Marian Gaborik could be the guy who would definitely put the puck in the net for the first time.
Yes, Marian Gaborik scored the first ever goal for the Minnesota Wild. They won't be making the Hall of Fame unless they buy a ticket. Really? Alrighty then. I don't think we have to worry about Marian Gaborik listening to our show. All right, folks, let's continue on with our Minnesota Wild.
Oh, yeah, we got one big, huge thing to talk about with the Minnesota Wild. I think they win, hands down. They should get a trophy for the retro uniform.
Yes. We were talking about that today. I think they look awesome, just like the Minnesota North Stars, the pants, everything.
Yep.
They looked awesome. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
I heard in an interview with Jared Spurgeon that players on all their teams are calling them Team Subway because they have the same markings in the start, but they look great.
I like how they look.
Fantastic uniform. In fact, Ed, make sure we get a picture up on our Facebook site to show the fans who haven't seen them yet those retro jerseys because they're fantastic looking.
They are awesome. There's a lot of good ones out there. The bleached white Red Wing ones, I'm not a fan of that.
Oh, jersey. The practice uniform.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Peter. With Minnesota sitting in fifth in the West and 6 points behind the division-leading Vegas Golden Knights, what do you see as a hiccup for the Wild moving forward, or can they make a push with the likes of Colorado and St. Louis in that division?
Well, I think as we're getting close to the halfway mark of this abbreviated season, and I think you're going to see Vegas and St. Louis and Colorado pull away from the pack. Colorado has games everybody's got some games in hand, of those teams on St. Louis. But Vegas has only played 21 games, and they're up on everybody. They're going to pull away. I think LA and Arizona are going to hang around to battle Minnesota for that fourth and final spot. And I think Anaheim and San Jose are already putting plans in place for next season.
I believe they've already got their golf outing set up. So you don't see Minnesota catching up to Colorado or even up to St. Louis this season at all.
No, I don't see that happen at all. I think, like I say, in the next 10 games, I know the schedule for the Wild gets a little tougher. They got Vegas a few more times in Colorado. The most of their early part of their schedule has been against the LAs, Arizonas, Anaheims, and San Jose's, and they've only played Vegas twice. So those numbers are going to catch up.
Yeah, it will eventually. Jumping into our mailbag. We have a mailbag question today from a Minnesota transplant here in Florida. Today's question is from Blake, and he is a big Wild fan. Blake wants to know, Kaapo Kähkönen, who was drafted in the fourth round in 2014, and is he the future between the pipes? He is a former AHL goaltender of the year. And is this Finnish netminder the real thing? And can he take the Wild to the next step in a hunt for a cup?
Well, like I said earlier, I think Bill Guerin has a plan. And we talked about Philip Lindbergh as well, who's in University of Massachusetts. And I could see these two being a good 1-2 punch. And I think when the NHL gets back to its regular schedules of 82 games and the grueling time it takes in the playoffs, you need a 1-2 punch between the pipes. Your players have to have the confidence that no matter who's in the net that night, they feel like they're going to expect to win. So yeah,
big
Kakkonen
difference with the
absolutely.
guys in front of their goalie. That's a big difference. When you got a netminder as a player, when you're out on the ice, I don't care what level you're playing at. If there's no confidence in that guy in between the pipes, your whole demeanor, your whole attention to the game changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Kakkonen, they brought him along. He played a couple of seasons in the AHL with Iowa, and he spent some time in Finland before then. And he was up with the Wild. He only got into 5 games last year, but he's, already in 13 games this year. So they're definitely they're definitely giving him the opportunity. And it's like when you talk to a lot of management people in the NHL, they provide the opportunity. The player decides if he's going to stay there.
The players decide, meaning they decide on how hard they're playing and how well they're.
Yep.
If they're going to stay there, in other words, they need to play to a level so that management has no choice but to keep them.
Exactly, because there's always somebody coming to knock on the door.
Knock on the door to take your. Absolutely correct.
Yep.
It's a big thing in any level of sports. Somebody's coming to take your job. So are you going to fight hard enough to keep it, or are you moving on down the road? Peter, that's a lot of conversation we got here on the Minnesota Wild. There's some other stuff we need to touch on that you and I were discussing earlier. Just take it away with what's going on in the tournament coming up in Big Ten.
Well, yeah, the NCAA wrapped up their regular season in this crazy COVID world. I mean, they even had a game that was scheduled this Wednesday between University of Michigan and Michigan State that they just canceled, and they set. They're going to go a tournament. Now, normally what they do is they have a little playoff series with the teams, and that gets them up to the Big Ten tournament weekend. But now they're going to do a 3-day weekend starting this coming Sunday, the 14th. All 7 teams are in it. Unfortunately, Arizona State, who I'm sure will be in that conference next year, is not part of it. But it's going to be good. Wisconsin took the league title or the conference title on Saturday with a grueling 2-1 win over Michigan State. And the University of Minnesota, we're back to Minnesota again. The Gophers were upset on Friday night by Michigan, which allowed Wisconsin, with their 2 wins over Michigan State, to claim the title and sneak it away from Minnesota, who basically had been leading the conference from start to finish other than one short weekend. So Wisconsin is the team to beat. And the tournament, like I said, kicks off on Sunday. They got 3 games for single elimination. So you've got Notre Dame and Penn State. Minnesota Golden Gophers take on Michigan State, and then Michigan plays Ohio State. And
that's
on the
next game to watch.
Well, yeah, Ohio State isn't where they were in the past.
Right, but I mean, it's not Michigan-Ohio State football, but Ohio State generally has a decent hockey team. Yeah, they're number 6, but
and I'll tell you one nice thing: if you were probably doesn't matter what fan you are of what NHL team, if you get a chance to catch this tournament, there are a lot of these kids who are going to end up in the NHL who've already been drafted. And, of course, the University of Michigan have 3 kids, 3 of them, who are ranked in the top 10 for the next NHL draft. And those kids are phenomenal.
Yeah, there's several kids in this tournament on these teams that will be drafted, highly drafted.
Yeah, and watch on Wisconsin is a goaltender, Cameron Rowe. I'm not sure how much time he'll get because if Wisconsin winning it, they get a bye from the first round. So they'll just play the second day, and if they win, they'll play for the championship. So freshman Cameron Rowe is eligible for the draft. He came in as a freshman to that team with Bedoin as the main goalie, but he ended up from somebody who looked like he was only going to get 1 or 2 games this year, the second half of the season, or actually started after the first few games. They alternated goalies every night, and this Cameron Rowe kid's just gotten better and better and better. So there's another NHL draft possibility right there.
So these games are going to kick off Sunday with Wisconsin having a bye. You got Notre Dame and Penn State at noon. Minnesota and Michigan State will play at 4:00. Michigan, Ohio State at 8:30. Winner of Minnesota and Michigan State plays the winner of the Michigan, Ohio State. And the winner between the Notre Dame and the Fighting Irish and the Nittany Lions will play. The winner of that game plays the Badgers, correct?
Yes, sir.
4:30
on Monday.
Monday, yeah. So, and then the championship game is what, Tuesday?
Yep, championships game Tuesday. So there's a potential to be playing, 3 games in 3 days. Well, somebody's going to end up playing three games in 3 days
well,
for sure.
Not necessarily. Yeah,
they have to. The bottom rank. Yeah.
Yeah, the bottom 4 teams, one of those are going to play for 3 days. The other ones, not so much, because Wisconsin's got a bye. Unless Penn State or Notre Dame upsets them, then one of them would have 3.
Yeah. So, and that tells
that's not out of the realm, actually.
Yeah, and
Notre Dame is number 4. What's that?
I said that tells a tale about goaltending.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to be hard to play your one goalie 3 games in a row.
Exactly. Now, will Strauss-Mann, is he going to, you think if he takes them all the way with Michigan, he's going to start all the games, or are they going to get in Portillo? Is he going to be able to play a game or a game? Not two.
It's funny. I actually talked to Coach Pearson today via Zoom, and we talked about that exact scenario, because it is going to be difficult to play three games in a row for one goalie 3 days in a row. So Eric Portillo has played quite a bit this year, especially in the second half of the year, and has been really, really good. He's a Buffalo Sabres draft pick, and he's a big kid. He's 6'6", 225 pounds, and he covers a lot of that.
Yeah, he's not going to have to move much.
But when he moves, he's quick. So I think the coach is confident with either goalie end, although I could see them on the first game against Ohio State going with Strauss-Mann, because Strauss played against Ohio State twice this year and shut him out both times. So you pretty well got to go back to the well with him there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they win that game in the second game. They could. It's hard to say. I also threw the scenario at them. If you're up by 3 goals entering the third period, and Strauss-Mann's in the net, would you consider pulling him? And that's a good question there. Put the other guy in, and give your guy a rest.
But you still think Mann is going to be the guy on top in Michigan?
I think he will. I think he's going to be their go-to guy to start with. But it's I can see the hook being there, and I saw it. Partway through the season, about 2/3 of the way through the season, if Mann gets a couple of goals behind him, they won't hesitate to use the hook and put Portillo in.
Yeah, I can see that, especially if it gets a tight game and he's not seeing the puck like he should. This is a one and done.
Single game elimination. Yeah, one and done.
So before we wrap up the show, we definitely want to do some condolences in the hockey world. It's been a kind of a sad week with Walter Gretzky passing away. All our thoughts and prayers are with the Gretzky family. It was sad to hear that Wayne lost his dad. He was a big figure in his life. And another sad one is the first player to pass away from the Miracle on Ice team, the 1980 gold medal team, Mark Pavlich. Now, I was reading part of it, and I think I missed. Was he found? Did he die in his sleep, or how?
He was dead. They found him, but at 63 years old, it's
still young.
If you're a little older like we are, that's young. Yeah, that's
very young.
It's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He played with New York. He played with Chicago
and Minnesota.
Yeah. Yes. So that was sad to hear. Very sad to hear. 63 years old. So our condolences are definitely out to the Pavlich family as well. Anything else you want to touch on, Peter? I know we got a big show next week. We got a special guest that you might want to kind of give a little tease. He's a friend of yours, so.
Yep. You know what? Actually, Ed, and I'm throwing this at you right now, live and in color. We may actually swing away from that and go with an even bigger guest, because we're approaching the halfway mark of the NHL season. I might bring in somebody who's got a pretty good, give us a pretty good analytic view of what's gone on in the first half of the season. So it's going to be one or the other. Tune in and find out. And Ed,
you're going to leave us. Wait a minute, you're going to leave us hanging and not tell me even?
Absolutely. I'm not even going to tell you, Ed. So be prepared.
Oh, I hate you right now, but I will get you off the air. That's that simple. Is it somebody that we've discussed before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
I'll let it go at that. There's a few names that are floating around. We're trying to get on the show. I don't know which one it is. I really don't. So That is going to about wrap up our show today. Today's show has been brought to you by the Florida Grow House. If you ever thought of your own greenhouse, here's your chance to get one. Have your own healthy, organic, fresh, and delicious fruits and vegetables. It's fun, relaxing, and a money-saving food in your own backyard. Just go to floridagrowhouse.com or call 772-249-2095. Mention you heard this ad on PuckHeads Insider Report. Get yourself a $750 discount. Remember, if you like the show, hit like. Please hit subscribe. Questions on your favorite team, send them off to us at puckheadsinsider@gmail.com. Go to our Facebook page, Puckheads Insider Report. This has been Season 1, Episode 18 of Puckheads Insider Report. My name is Ed Combs. I am here in South Florida for my co-host Peter South in Windsor, Ontario. We look forward to talking hockey again with you next week.